This sea of sunburnt sand is populated by wolves, burrowing scorpions, strange stone altars with sliding blocks that don't slide for me, a blinding sandstorm, a graveyard, and off in the distance, a shade taking the shape of a large wolf. But through a stone arch off in one of the corners of the zone is a gate etched into a sandstone mountainside. Beyond that is Facade. The gate is locked and guarded by masked sentries, but they let us through when they recognize Kaine, who has earned the community's appreciation after saving one of their own from a wolf. We enter and witness the majesty of Facade, a city carved out of a mountain. Houses, shops, pathways, staircases, all share the same amber color, where they are all made from the same sandy material. The city layout is perfectly square-shaped, and its structures are all inset into the land, like a stepwell. When we enter, we are at the city's highest point, and then echelons crowded with houses, shops, pathways, staircases, sculptures, and more progressively descend down and down 4 or 5 levels until arriving at the city's geometric center. On the sidewalls, huge columns of falling sand are turning enormous wooden water wheels, and at the back center is a plaza in front of a large structure, perhaps the king's palace. Navigating this city as the bird flies is impossible. You can get around in 2 ways: taking an on-demand sand gondola roughly around the city's hotspots, or embarking on a parkour labyrinth as you go up, down, and around residential rooftops to bridges and back around so you can get to a staircase that gets you high enough to double jump dash across this rooftop so you can go down and around and hop to this. Yeah, well, you get what I mean. But Kaine doesn't join me for any of it. Kaine relaxes at the entrance while we explore the city, saying that the local language is crazy. And I have to agree, when you speak with the locals, strange wingding characters print on your text window, but a voice that sounds very Japanese speaks through my speakers. Vice has never heard of this language before, and I can see everybody wears rags and strange, nearly featureless tribal masks that completely conceal heads, necks, and shoulders. We're turned away at the palace doors, so we return to Kaine. When we do, we befriend a local who communicates to us through gestures. She signs that her name is Fyra, F-Y-R-A, and if you want to visit the king, you must follow the rules of our culture. As she escorts us through the city, we learn that its inhabitants are bound by hundreds of thousands of rules, each numerated like a serial number. Every time I hear of one, they're either really extreme, really specific, or put obstacles into this society's general quality of life. For example, rule number 115,017 means anyone who wishes to purchase from Facade's shops must tour the city by gondola first. Rule 12 is, do not neglect your mask. When we reach the palace, she calls it the King's Manor, but the king has died of the Black Scrawl, and the prince lives here now. Kaine discovers Fyra is the child she rescued, and Vice is in complete disbelief. He has this line that has me busting out laughing too. He goes, "Kaine? Helped you? This foul-mouthed hussy?" A moment later, we learn that the prince has not returned from his visit to the Baron Temple, which is a violation of Rule 83,348. The royal guards would go looking for him, but that would put them in violation of Rule 50,527. Entangled by red tape, we decide to help. Fyra shows us the way through the sandstorm to reach the temple. Its entrance is similar to Facade's, profound sandstone carvings etched into the side of a dry, sun-baked mountain. We enter. When we do, we can see the temple's central hall, cleaved in two by a river of moving sand with decorated brick pathways leading into an array of rooms on either side. Flames and sconces light the room, and stone bridges bisect the chamber. In the center back, a colorful bas-relief towers over the chamber, but its design is difficult to make out. We navigate the temple by passing through every last side room, progressively unlocking magically locked door after magically locked door. The challenges in the temple are less typical action RPG combat and more a matter of puzzle games. More than just sliding block puzzles, Nier is challenged to slide blocks and dodge bullet hell cannons, and sometimes a common action is locked in that particular room, such as jumping, dash rolling, or using magic. This is a delightful morsel of ludo-narrative harmony, as this is gameplay that is reflecting Facade's unusual rule structures. Partway through, we find the prince, a petulant boy, maybe 10 years old, wearing black royal robes lined with golden coins and a collar as tall and stiff as a top hat. He gets mysteriously tractor beamed away by a mechanical floating block, and a minute later, Kaine is whisked away in the same manner. Deeper into the temple, we find common types of shades, but then a larger shade with 2 pile drivers for arms spawns. When he hammers his arms into the ground, jagged molten spikes thrust upwards out of the floor. A charged up dark fist can do like a quarter of its health and he goes down no problem. In the temple's final chamber, we find the prince still suspended beneath a floating box. On its face is a strange design, 2 red eyes with countless teeth pointing into the center of a circular mouth. He's one of a matrix of 100 or so floating angry boxes that rise up out of the floor and engage in battle, operating as one hive mind. Its first formation is a stack of large rotating rings, and when the correct box lights up, it's vulnerable. Basic attacks are pretty challenging to get in, so I defer to Dark Lance and Dark Phantasm's power and accuracy. Of course, there are plenty of red bullet hell bubbles to dodge in this fight, too. When enough boxes break, the Matrix re-racks itself into a single ring that spins faster than before, making dodging bubbles and striking a vulnerable box all the more difficult. It's too fast for those spells, so I swapped to Dark Blast, favoring a little chip damage per each of the ring's revolutions rather than investing huge chunks of mana into Dark Lances that are likely to miss. Also, when you shoot a red bubble in this fight, it turns into a purple bubble which, as far as I can tell, cannot be destroyed. It is a must dodge, so that's great. When the last ring has had enough of the blocks fall into the pit, it calls more of their cube friends and re-racks into the likeness of a human from the torso up. Its fists of cubes glows green as they smash into the floor around me, causing deadly shockwaves to jump over. Kaine, floating under another cube in a corner, wrenches herself free, leaps onto the thing's shoulder saying, "I'm going to kill the shit out of you," and destroys one of the cubes that functions as its head, which pisses the thing off. After focusing the anthropomorphized colony's hands, it re-racks again into an array of frames. Some of the boxes glow blue, and it takes steady aim to correctly break them all. When they're down to a dozen left or so, they scour the room with hissing orange laser beams. Then an attack gauge appears on the last one. Another volley of dark lances finishes it off, and the scene ends with the prince discovering a wooden mask on the ground nearby. He picks it up, does a spin, and holds it skyward like he's picked up an item in Legend of Zelda. Back in Facade, the prince says he'll never forget the debt his kingdom owes you. Nier recommends Facade adopt a new rule, where if the kingdom does not like a rule, they may vote to change it. The very thought of this rule appalls the royal vizier, and the prince gives us a sword named Rebirth. The tooltip says, a unique sword with a round blade. Legend holds that it robs the wielder of his life force. It has bad attack power, but a huge amount of magic power. We explain our sealed verses theory to the prince, but he doesn't have any leads. And then we learn a sealed verse, funny enough. Dark Wall. Erect a magic defensive barrier. For the rest of the game, I completely ignore this skill. Before leaving Facade, I stop at the weapons store and purchase the Earthworm's Claw for 8,400. It's not better than Beastbane, but its tooltip hints that it scales better as it upgrades. It looks cool. It's like a scorpion stinger on a stick. Back at Yona's, she's feeling better and then asks if I'll stay with her. She coos when Nier says yes, but when he goes to bed, he receives a vision and a dream. We don't see the vision though, it's printed on the screen in text. A boy with silver hair is saying something to him, but no sound is coming out. By reading lips, Nier makes out these 3 phrases. Sealed verse, dream, forest of myth, and then title card. The next morning. Yona says she had a dream, and essentially recites the same dream Nier had. Nier consults Popola about it, but before he can tell her, she shows him a letter from the mayor of the Forest of Myth, sending word that there is a, quote, dream issue going on in the forest, and then the writer, the mayor here, progressively and chaotically is losing his mind, inserting the word dream in at inappropriate times until the letter comes to an end after writing the word dream 20 or 30 times. Nier thinks, what a coincidence, and we're going to check it out. I upgrade the Nirvana Dagger to level 2 at the Junkie Weaponsmith, and on my way back, I catch a new journal entry. October 28th. I was tired today, so I stayed home and hid in bed. I could still hear Devla singing from somewhere, though. Listening to her makes me happy. The Forest of Myth is not a very remarkable place. This zone is a simple grove of trees with 4 or 5 humans completely motionless in front of them. Again, Kaine hangs back at the entrance. we find a man sitting on a stump with his eyes closed, who begs us to beware of contagious words. Then, probably the most unusual thing so far happens in this game. The audio dialogue between Weiss and Nier cuts out, leaving us to simply read their conversation about what a strange thing this sleeping man is saying. But then a narrator inserts itself into the text, and it's even editorializing the content in how their dialogue is said, which our characters can even overhear and argue with. For example, after Weiss says, "Hold a moment, there's a strange new sensation in my mind," what prints on the screen is, Weiss's voice rose in a quizzical way, to which Weiss responds with, "It is not quizzical." And even a little later, the narrator nods in agreement with something the mayor says, but Nier responds with, "Wait a second, I didn't nod." It seems we are engaging with some cerebral break with the fourth wall, where the very media of this entertainment, called Nier Replicant version 1.22474487139, is shifting to a choose-your-own text adventure. Within this new narrative framework, the sleeping man is able to speak with us more clearly, although he remains asleep. He says a disease called the Death Dream is spreading through the forest. Those afflicted fall asleep and live forever within the world of their own dreams, which sounds very much like the dreamlands of H.P. Lovecraft. The mayor thinks we have been pulled into his dream and we are at risk of being infected ourselves. As the conversation goes on, the text box grows to mostly the size of the screen, and then all goes dark. We see simply white letters against black inside a minimalistic letterbox. This shift in media has abandoned graphics entirely. From here on, we might as well be reading a book from a tablet. The narrator says Nier offers to help, but then Nier says he didn't. Together, we deduce that if nothing can exist inside a dream without the dreamer knowing it, the mayor could not anticipate our arrival, so how can Nier and Weiss be here now trapped in the mayor's dream? That does make some sense to me, but it doesn't answer any questions. As we set out to rescue the villagers from their dreams, the mayor wonders if he's seen Nier somewhere before. Our text adventure takes us through the forest where we hear a message through the noise of a cacophony of singing insects. It's a riddle. 1 is lacking, 2 with it is ideal, 3 is dangerous. What is it? I say it's a secret, and the insects reveal a deeper path through the woods. Nier finds another riddle written in ripples in a forest spring. I enter through the window and break no glass. When night falls, I vanish. Well, the answer is sunlight. Next, we find a cottage in a clearing. I have 4 legs in the morning, 2 at noon, and end the night with 3. What am I? Easy. I heard this riddle in Mirror Mask, the movie Mirror Mask. If you haven't seen it, check it out. But performing dog is not one of the selectable answers, so the answer must be man, with the day being an analogy for life. Nier recognizes the man as the mayor, but he says he's not, and then shares that long ago, he saw a version of you that was not yourself. He does not elaborate on this, but congratulates us on cracking the seal of the Death Dream. The 3 of us lie down to sleep, and when we wake again, the mayor asks us to break the rest of the villagers out of their death dreams, but not before pointing us to the village's divine tree, located in the center of the village, who guards the village's history and memories, and that the tree possesses a sealed verse, which we earn. Obtained Dark Execution, the spiky field of spears ability from the prologue. The text adventure ends, and graphics return to the screen. We're still standing there, right beside the mayor. So, I set out to break each of the villagers' death dreams curse by beginning a text adventure with each of them. I'm not going to go over every detail of everybody's dream, because it's a lot of detail, some of which is surely seeding some other payoff later, but it feels like it takes forever to complete. Altogether, I think I completed all of the dreams in about 40 minutes of game time, but it's 40 minutes of advancing white text on a black background and making an occasional selection. Sure, it's creative and surreal, but it's confusing and too long, and it stops the game dead. Well, I will mention one story. I am told I'm navigating this castle, and the questions you answer are which rooms to enter, so you have to build a map in your head of the layout of this castle like it's fucking Shadowgate. In this castle you find a mountain of burning bodies, and then it begins to flood. And don't you open the wrong door, because I did once, and the flood came in and we freaking died, like game over died. I couldn't believe they didn't just reset you like you fell off a platform or drowned or wait.
You're back.
A pretty lame way to go, I'd say.
You picked the wrong answer in a choose your own text adventure?
Pretty much, yeah.
I thought you were playing a video game.
I am playing a video game. It's just this particular video game likes to change its genres sometimes.
Then there are lots of new ways you can fail me. How exciting. Speaking of failures, have you met the witch yet?
No, I haven't figured that out yet. Give me more time.
More time? I don't have more time! And neither do you. Get back out there and find a way to break the game.
Jeez Louise. Are we really headed towards disaster if I can't figure this out? Okay, well, let's just get back to the adventure. Before we return to the Choose Your Own Adventures new journal entry, January 30th. Nier came back. He came back to see me. Yay! When we free all the villagers, the mayor rewards us with a one-handed sword named Faith, a sword carried by the world's most loyal servant. Like that loyalty, the sword's blade is straight and true. It's decently stronger than my level 2 Nirvana dagger, but I expected that to be so. I equip Faith. We update Popola. She says, "Oh, that's nice. Can you track down this contractor for me?" Nier has no reaction to her blowing off his quest and tracks him down anyways. He's loafing around in Seafront fighting with his wife, and while I'm on this distracting quest, I'm thinking to myself, is Toylogic giving me inane side tasks after the Forest of Myth segment saying, "Hey, this is the action-adventure gameplay you wanted, isn't it? Well, here it is. Go find this motherfucker." He asks us to go find his wife, and although we don't find her, we find her satchel on a shade in the Southern Plains. He thinks she's dead, but she strolls into the conversation, saying she lost her bag en route to visiting her family. They go back to fighting, but not before the man consents to working on Popola's canal project. We report back to Popola, then go visit Yona. She says she has a secret pen pal and wants to meet him. Nier wants to join her for the visit in case he needs to pull a Chris Hansen. The boy lives in the solitary mansion in the Southern Plains, so we go there. And again, as I pass through the gates of the mansion, the colors drain from the world. A butler is ready to greet me at the door. It is a stately colonial-style mansion, 3 stories high, and has a second-story balcony that overlooks the first-story main entrance by simple stone columns wreathed in ivy. Inside, we see that the foyer is as large as a ballroom. More columns hold up a second-story loft that wraps around the room, and the central staircase is destroyed and unusable. The color remains grayscale throughout the mansion, and the music features mournful, angelic voices that are as haunting as they are beautiful. All signs are telling me that this is a haunted house, and I get the creeping feeling that the butler, nor the mysterious pen pal, are actually real. I feel another genre shift in gameplay as we navigate the mansion. Haunting music, fixed cameras in different corners of each room, eerie indoor environments, and that haunted squeaky door sound effect that plays as we move from room to room makes me feel like we're playing through the original Resident Evil. Even so, the butler leads us through a hallway where we wait in a banquet hall. But we are impatient. We leave the banquet hall and explore the scullery and portrait room. All portraits are images of wealthy strangers, and their images and wooden picture frames appear in full color. We return to the banquet hall to find Kaine has disappeared, and back in the portrait room, some of the portraits' images have changed. The faces of noble men and women are now ghoulishly melted or decayed. We find a courtyard encircled by hedgebrush with a non-functioning fountain in the center, and statues of kids playing nearby. We're attacked by shades and spiders deeper in the mansion. Note that the spiders' crimson bloodstains are also set in color. And then we open a room where a young boy wearing bandages over his eyes is playing a grand piano. He wears a ruffled undershirt, a dusty blue nobleman's jacket edged with more white ruffle, and wears a sash bearing embroidered vines, leaves, and blossoms across his torso. He is Emil, E-M-I-L, the master of this manor. He says, anything he looks at turns to stone, like a Medusa, but denies being anyone's pen pal. The butler enters and admits to writing the letters without Emil's knowing. His intention was to bring Nier, this adventurer he's been hearing about, to Emil's attention because maybe we can help Emil cure him of his own petrification powers. Weiss thinks the butler owes Yona an apology for gaslighting her, but the butler doesn't give a shit about that. Apparently, Emil's cure is located somewhere inside this mansion, guarded by shades. Emil joins us for this mission and lends us his powers, which essentially one-hit kills shades. En route, we find a blade of treachery, for which the tooltip says, when a man who has lost his way wields this sword, the blade becomes blunt as wood. The stats on it are unimpressive. We carve our way through room after room of shades until color fills the screen again, when we reach a gorgeous grand library, 2 stories tall and rich with stained wood bookcases, display cases, railings, banisters, and ceiling. In here, a floating book, similar to Vice, whose plated cover bears an enigmatic, open-mouthed face in front of a circular labyrinth, flies at us and engages in battle. Emile cannot petrify it. It protects itself by staying within a spinning tempest of stiff, red pages until it hurls a volley of pages at us, which slice through the air at me like throwing stars. My only chance to get in a hit is in the moment after it throws its last page and before it summons another shield of protective pages. Leaping over the final page to make the first hit on it, a double jump strike feels heroic and deals extra damage. Kaine catches up to us in Phase 2, where it creates a red magic bubble around it and then tries to ram me into the bookshelves. My challenge is to deal melee strikes to it in the time in between dash rolling away from its charge and winding up for the next charge. So I pretty much give it the boar treatment. I'm the entire room away from the book when Kaine breaks its shield with a kick and the book drops to the floor. I race over to it, but between Kaine and Vice's spell effects, I don't see it rise quickly, recast, and wind up another charge. It hits me point blank and I go flying 3/4 back the way I came. Nier does not get up. Game over. Hi again.
Any news for me?
I don't know what I'm looking for. There's got to be some other way to get in touch with this witch.
There is no other way. Get back out there, Tyler. There isn't that much time.
That was fast. Second attempt, I finish it no problem, and the book explodes into ivory pages that fall like feathers all around the room. From the scattering pages, Nier catches a, quote, research report on petrification out of the air, and we obtain the sealed verse, Dark Whirlwind. This ability is insane. On instant cast, a large red and black scythe spins around my hero, and when fully charged, 4 larger scythes spin around Nier. They spin for about 15 or 20 seconds before they disappear, and the ability doesn't take very much mana or time to fully charge. I love this ability. Heading back to the butler, he commits himself to finding the cure within the report, and Kaine tells Emile that his eyesight is a gift to behold, not an illness to cure. She reveals to him that she is part shade, and like Emile's eyes, she says her arm is an accursed weapon, and then she whispers something to him about, quote, if this arm should ever... ... This information shocks the boy, and we don't hear what it is that she ended up saying. By the way, is nobody else curious how Emile came to be the master of this manor? We never ask. Apparently we've got our hands on all the sealed verses now, and all that's next is to confront Grimoire Noir. But that wasn't Grimoire Noir, I suppose. I feel like we're really underselling the existence of this third magical tome, but I guess it doesn't matter. We return to Yona, who asks nothing about Nier's visit to her pen pal. She's becoming increasingly emotional about her condition, even saying that she doesn't want Nier to hate her because of her disease, and she's sorry she's coughing all the time. I can't tell if this is relevant to the narrative or if this overbearing drama is just leading into helpless little girl anime tropes. I mean, if you paid attention to anything Nier has done over the course of this game, you know that his conviction for helping his sister isn't so much obvious as it is literally his ultimate goal in life. Nier begs Popola for more medicine, but sorry, I'm out. Can you pick up some vapor moss for me, please? Jesus fucking Christ. In our search, we find Emile collapsed just inside the village's southern gate. Nier drags him to Popola's office where Emile sees a vision. The shades are coming. Just then, the whole place rumbles. Nier races out the library, and another inverted collar journal entry appears. Like the other one, it's another technical document which reads like this. Damage report. February 6, 2008. Wall of Jericho collapsed. 5,000 people believed dead. Request for reinforcements coming in from multiple locations. We continue to monitor the situation. 2008, huh? So what was Jericho, an American subprime mortgage lender? Shades break through the gate to the southern plains, and Nier takes the battle to them in the middle of the village. Dark Whirlwind does wonders to help slay these creatures in tight quarters, but an enormous, monstrous shade made of viscous, dull yellow and black goo explodes the gate entirely and goes kaiju on the village. Nier dodges the shockwaves of its gooey punches and slashes at its fist before it can wind up for another. An attack gauge on its arm appears, and I break it with a volley of dark lances. 4 dark fists come together to create one enormous magical red and black fist, which grabs the beast's arm and rips it off. Blood sprays all over the village, but he grows back the arm no problem. It chases us through the village, and we climb up the village ramparts to fire more lances directly into its mouth in between volleys of bullet hell bubbles. Another attack gauge appears on an arm, and again I break it with lances. The thing leaps over Nier and begins marching towards the library. Nier stalls it by slashing at its feet, and when an attack gauge over its foot breaks, the enhanced dark fist punches it 3 times in the face, but the thing is like rubber. Kaine joins the fight as it advances towards the library, and we break another attack gauge on its face. This time, an X strike performed by Kaine and Nier's Dark Phantasm cause, the 5th attack gauge to appear on this guy again on its face. A powered-up series of dark lances lodge into the goo kaiju's chest, bores through its torso, and explodes out the back in a spray of blood and white and red light. The thing vaporizes into black smoke, then bursts into the library, taking a smaller octopus-like form, although perhaps 20 feet tall, and with tentacles twice as long. It rams Emil, who crashes into a bookcase and goes unconscious. There are attack gauges on every tentacle. Now, you'd think the scythes would do a satisfying amount of AoE damage given all of these targets, but I don't know if they're doing any damage at all, so I surgically focus the attack gauges as the thing leaps into the air to smash me or knock me away. Then, the 199th attack gauge of the battle appears over its head. This one is taking a long time to burst down, and he's not idle during this time. No, he whirls in a tight circle around himself, making basic attacks dangerous. He can even knock you back into a corner of the room and close the distance fast, essentially juggling you with this one move. After breaking that attack gauge, the beast collapses and yet another attack gauge appears over its ugly head. The time runs out on this attack gauge 2 times before I finally get it down. The clock hand for this one moves extremely fast, and the collapsed tentacles on the ground make for obstacles you have to clear so you can close the distance, even if the head is only 15 feet away. When I get it right, the super fist splits into 2, which punch it into the atrium's locked doors, apparently the basement. Kaine blocks the doors with her body, and when Nier races to assist her, his shoulder is suddenly pierced by a smoking black and red spike. Behind him, holy shit, a shadow version of Nier goes from a kneel to a stand, like the Terminator. This shadow Nier has smoking black and red runic wings, and other glowing runes that run across his body. His skin is the color of ash, and his hair silver, and his face is that of a broken granite statue, save for his right brow and cheek, which is black as slate, and a pale eye like the yellow moon. And there is a floating book by his side. Grimoire Noir, I presume. The man snatches Yona and summons more shades, who bow before Shadow Nier. Then Shadow Nier's book hypnotizes Vice. Like Vice and the Book in the Manor, this book has a plate cover also featuring an enigmatic face, this time enclosed around 2 dark halos. Grimoire Noir reminds Vice of their true higher purpose. We are created to serve the Shadow Lord. Do you remember our ultimate goal? Black and white, fuse to one and set free the shades unto the world. And I suppose that as a tool of the Shadow Lords, I expect that this is the Shadow Lord's ultimate plan as well. Turns out Vice's collection of the sealed verses was all part of the Shadow Lord's plan. Kaine, still holding the door against the gelatinous shade, snaps him out of his hypnotic state with a rant that is so impressive and so well performed by Kaine's voice actor, the legendary Laura Bailey, that we are going to take time to recite it verbatim. Here we go. Weiss, you dumbass! Start making sense, you rotten book, or you're going to be sorry. Maybe I'll rip your pages out one by one, or maybe I'll put you in a goddamn furnace! How can someone with such a big, smart brain get hypnotized like a little bitch, huh? Oh, Shadowlord, I love you, Shadowlord. Come over here and give Weiss a big sloppy kiss, Shadowlord. Now pull your head out of your goddamn ass and start fucking helping us! How to do, Laura? We see that Weiss has been robbed of all of his powers, and the Shadowlord has disappeared. Noir takes the fight to us directly. But as I experienced it, Noir is a lot easier to fight than he's drummed up to be. He has the same skill set as the book in the manor, but can also fill the atrium with bullet hell bubbles. Getting a few strikes onto Noir returns a sealed verse to Weiss, and by the end of the battle, Weiss's powers are completely restored. When we finish him, Noir explodes into a spiky sphere of black energy breathed in a neon red mandala that pierces Nier's body yet again. Noir reappears, unscratched, alongside the Shadowlord still holding Yona, and flies out of the library on its evil runic wings. Nier collapses to the ground, dying more of despair than of his wounds. Kaine also feels like giving up, having exhausted her strength holding back the shade in the basement. She asks Emil to petrify her as a means to keep the monster locked in the basement permanently. Emil reluctantly agrees. He takes his bandages off, revealing terrified, icy blue eyes. Emil's magic is a work of art, and the likeness of Kaine impressed upon the basement door makes her look like an enormous bas-relief hanging over an ancient shrine, more than a stone facsimile of her former self. Emil looks up through the hole in the library roof that the Shadowlord burst through. Not a sight of him to be seen. Nothing but a clear, blue sky. Title card. 5 years later. Meet Nier, 5 years older. His hair is longer, his shoulders are broader, his look is grimmer, his armor is heavier, and he wields a two-handed sword named Kusanagi. We catch him doing battle in a field by the home village with heavily armored shades that wield not runic weapons, but actual swords and wear actual plate armor. We can also wield spears now, and he carries one by default named Transience. All along these 5 years, Nier has been brooding over losing Yona, and his determination to destroy all shades is even more steadfast. We learn that shades are becoming more aggressive again, although never as worse as the giant gooey shades assault on the village and library 5 years ago. We return to the library. The bas-relief of Kaine covering the basement doors is grand, simply astonishing to behold. A villager here, browsing bookshelves, says something pretty profound about the world's history that's worth bookmarking in your brain. Climate change wasn't the cause of our woes. It started when something terrible came down from the sky, and that it seems that this event turned the world into a metropolis of salt. And then he says, I guess they're talking about how most of the cities sank into the ocean. There is a lot to unpack here. I'm not aware of any climatological concerns in this world, nor am I aware of something that came down from the sky and how the world turned to salt, although in that note I think he may be speaking in hyperbole. But it begs the question, what the hell happened to this land? Was it ruined by some 21st century cataclysm and now nature has returned to grow over the husk of that long-dead society? The answers are coming, I hope. Nier reads a letter from Emil saying he's broken some ground on how to cure Kaine's petrification, and would I lend a hand? Well, why not? I headed to town, collect some quests, and complete some of them. I also visit the weaponsmith. He has 2 very powerful weapons, one called the Axe of Beheading, and the other a spear called Sunrise. They are each between 19 and 22,000 gold, and I have not a quarter of that amount in my inventory. Either option would boost my damage output by 40%. Maybe I can buy one after I complete some quests. The southern plains are dense with shades, but I make it to Emil's manor without a problem. When we reach him, Emil shares a document he discovered called Plan Snow White. It describes a secret facility underneath the manor's courtyard, which includes an archive that contains information on how to control or cancel all forms of magic, and also ambiguously refers to storage for number 6 and continuing work on number 7. Sure enough, when we explore the courtyard, we discover a secret entrance. But when I take another look at those stone adults and children playing, I get the feeling they weren't built by any sculptor. The facility below is a dungeon, and we explore featuring an isometric camera angle, making the gameplay feel like Diablo or Path of Exile. We fight our way through several rooms that look very much like laboratories, warehouses, and hospital wings, while Emil follows along. Partway through, we discover a two-handed sword called Fang of the Twins. Its tooltip says, a man whose fiancée was spirited away by an 8-headed beast used this sword to smite its foe. I equip the weapon and do battle with 100 shades all at once in a narrow hallway, like I'm Old Boy. Deeper inside the facility, we find another document about Project Snow White. It says, Progress Report on number 6, December 25, 2025. Hey, that's Christmas Day! We have completed the initial research into number 6, and are ready to initiate the startup experiment in the coming days. As this will likely mark a great leap forward in Gestalt research, the National Weapons Research Laboratory has made the completion of the number 6 project top priority. Gestalt. That's the name of the other version of this game. I'm playing Nier Replicant, but there's also a Nier Gestalt, right? I'm getting the feeling that big revelations are just around the corner. But we're not done here. Clipped to the document is a sepia-tone photograph of a circular stone head wrapped in chains. Its eyes are dead white, and I have no idea what I'm looking at. Inside a kid's playroom, we're sneak attacked by countless shades and a huge granddaddy shade with 2 hammers for hands. A leafless tree in the center of the room is incarcerated within a birdcage-shaped cell. When we finish them off, we find a third document about Snow White, and it goes like this. Progress report on number 6, October 11th, 2025. The donor body, Halua, Halua, has been chosen from among 7 candidate subjects to proceed to the next stage. In the interest of protecting state secrets, all but one of the remaining subjects will be disposed of. The donor body, Emil, however, will be kept in storage as a failsafe measure. What I'm gathering is the manor is no estate. It's a cover for keeping control over Emil. Meanwhile, some other test subject who has advanced through more stages of Project Snow White than he has could be in one of these rooms. We open huge industrial doors and cross a cavernous room, which tells me this facility is built extremely deep into the earth. We cross a catwalk to a cylindrical room in the center, the interior of which is a towering dome of concrete panels and a hideous monster crucified against the wall by a dozen railroad spikes, each a meter long. This moment feels exactly like meeting Lilith in Neon Genesis Evangelion. Emil remembers everything now. They did magical experiments on us to turn us into weapons. Then they created a perfect weapon they call number 6, and that is what this monster is. But number 6 broke free of their control and could only do so with the powers by another living experiment, number 7. Emil is number 7, and 6 is his sister. Her raw power alone can eradicate his petrification, but if her power consumes him, he may become a weapon gone amok like she has. Emil says he wants Nier to kill him. Number 6 rips herself off the wall and swallows Emil whole. The lifeless grin on this thing's bone-smooth pumpkin head is chilling, and it stares at Nier with its glowing red holes. Although very anthropomorphic, number 6 shifts between crawling on the ground, like a lizard or golem, and will attack with electrically charged claws, or it will stand on its hind legs and spray fields of bullet hell bubbles, some of which move across the room in mesmerizing geometry, like as if they were pulled from a fractal animation. She seems strong to physical attacks, so I change weapons to Beastbane. It gives more magic power than my two-hander, and then I can load more magic-increasing words onto it. I pummel it with dark blasts until it climbs the walls. Then I swap to dark lances. Lining up the shots are hard because these new purple bubbles hit harder than the red ones, so I focus more on surviving the bullet hell than I do on managing my DPS. Slow and steady wears its health down until it falls off the wall and lands belly up, and an attack gauge appears on its face. I race in to combo it down, but the field of electricity it's producing during this state throws me backwards. I realize I have to break the gauge at range, and I don't have enough mana to finish it in time. The gauge lapses, and number 6 leaps back onto the wall. So this time, I remember to save enough mana for the gauge when it appears again, and I finish its health bar a second time. 5 queued up Dark Lances finishes the job. In the glory kill shot, Nier fires 6 more lances, pinning the creature to the wall like how we saw it when we first entered the room, and then a larger lance bores into its skull. Then, in a dream state, Emil's sister, Halua, tells Emil to wake up, and that it's over now, and that she'll always be watching over him. Conscious again, he emerges from a purple and black mandala as an Emil-sized version of the creature we just defeated. Hideous smile, unsettling skull face, skeleton arms and legs, but his voice is exactly the same. Exactly. Emil is rightfully self-conscious of his new form, but he has increased magical powers now, including control of his petrification abilities, meaning he can see now. He also wears rags for clothing and wields a long metal staff. Emil floats as he travels through the game world, and his combat abilities include drawing a small purple mandala in the air from which purple energy balls spray out. He also has a small heal spell for Nier. He will heal you up in between battles too, at roughly 90-second intervals. We return to the library to free Kaine. Emil frees her without issue, and she falls into his arms. She's not awake yet, but the golden shine of the remedying spell feels like a rebirth for her. A second later, the basement beast explodes out of the basement doors. We rehearse the same fight we fought 5 years ago. And when we defeat it this time, our glory kill shot is of 2 giant dark fists made up of 6 regular dark fists, because usually we max out at 4, strangles the creature, which thrashes and wiggles its tentacles until an explosion of blood bursts through the dark fist's surging knuckles. Kaine recognizes Emil despite his form, and then, when laying her eyes on Nier, says, "Damn, Nier, you grew up." We fill her in on the events of the last 5 years, and hand her a lunar tear, although I have no memory of picking up one. Popola and Devila tell us that Emil can't visit the village because the villagers are scared of his monster face. Nier protests, saying he helped save the village in the attack 5 years ago, but that doesn't matter. Nier resents this decision and becomes very personally pissed off at the twins themselves. New Weird Report Journal. Abnormalities, June 23rd, 2033. Several deleterious abnormalities have been found with a subject in the early stages of treatment, including a relapse state resulting in a total loss of self. We will investigate the cause of this error and submit a countermeasure plan immediately. Okay, so things are bad and getting worse in the 21st century. Loss of self, huh? Could they be talking about number 6's rampage? Maybe not, because I doubt Emil and his sister are more than 1,000 years old. Anyways, I pick up some quests in Facade, and while I'm there, the prince's vizier explains that those unusual stone structures in the desert are a network of fast travel points, and teaches me how to use them. A guard next to him gives me a compass that helps me keep my direction in the sandstorms. While I'm here, I buy the desert and Facade maps from the item shop, wishing I knew these were here earlier. I also noticed the weaponsmith here is now selling a Phoenix Spear. Its attack value is absolutely immense, quite a lot higher than the two-handers I saw from Nier's village's weaponsmith, but it costs 32,000 gold, almost double those of other weapons. I would have to find another 28,000 gold, and I don't even think I've had more than 10,000 gold on me yet at any given time in this playthrough. New journal entry when I return to Nier's village, this one written by Yona, let's say. December 22nd, a merchant passed through the village today, and she just kept pulling the craziest stuff out of her big bag. She said her name was Accord. A-C-C-O-R-D. Stop. Everybody stop. I have no idea what's going on in this game anymore. The mysteries are so enigmatic, and the clues feel so far apart. I really don't think I can make any predictions on what's going on in the greater state of this world, or time frames, or whatever's going on in the 21st century. I feel like questing, so I do that for a long time. I return to the junk heap to farm item drops, kill shades and scorpions in the desert. I do more gardening. I get into fights of mobs of shades in the northern and southern plains, discover an abandoned ship that is washed ashore on the cove next to Seafront's lighthouse, and I fish. Boy, do I fish. I fish the shit out of this game. The Master Fisherman has, 9 quests, and I get to the final quest, and I just stopped. I didn't have it in me anymore to continue. But guess what? During that 8th quest I just finished, the fail state fish, it's a shark. And this fail state shark sells for 1,200 gold each. And I have 15 of them. I also have 7 bream that each sell for 750. I sell a lot of other miscellaneous items as well, and now I have almost 42,000 gold. That's enough to buy the Phoenix Spear. I pick it up from the Facade weapon shop, load more physical attack words onto it, and test it on hostiles in the desert. It melts most unarmored beasts and makes quick enough work of the rest. As I play around, I find it interesting that the attack animation while jumping makes Nier float in the air while he thrusts, which I log in my brain as a chance to extend my time airborne after doing a double jump dash, although it doesn't have much forward momentum. We speak with Popola, who says she's learned that the lost shrine we discovered Vysen is connected to the Shadow Lord in some manner. Recall that access to the shrine has been impossible since we last left it. However, now that the canal has been repaired, a gondola can take me to its rear entrance. Also, these gondolas serve as fast travel between corners of the greater area. I also noticed during this time, probably very late in the game, that the room with the shelves opposite Popola's office has been progressively filling with metal miniatures of every boss I've slain. Why is this filling with boss trophies? Like the out-of-game reason I get, but like in-game, freaking weird. We take the ferry to the shrine and climb up the rock pillar the shrine sits upon. We find a spear called the Devil Queen along the way, but the Phoenix Spear is a galaxy's distance in front of it. We climb up the same way we did before, earlier in the game, winding up and around the ancient tree inside, but this time with more challenging shades and sliding block puzzles. Eventually we cross into the hall where we fought those 2 Skull Knight statues and are immediately attacked by the remaining red-eyed one. The Phoenix Spear drills this thing's health bar so well I don't even bat an eye at the crowd of mini-shades harassing me around the room. When the glory kill comes, the thing bats the giant dark hand away, but the force of Kaine's follow-up blows knock it into the air, which Nier spikes back into the ground with his spear. It groans and makes funny noises on the ground and desperately spins and thrashes around the room, and the tip of its spear is wreathed in flame. Burning it down and bursting its attack gauge is a cinch. In the next glory kill shot, the creature bats away a dark lance, which breaks off the thing's spearhead, which sails across the room like a missile, and impales Kaine through the chest. Nier finishes the beast off by charging it while it's dazed and ramming his spear right fucking through it. The thing showers Nier in blood, reels back, shudders, and falls forward dead. Kaine's mortal injury, however, has drawn the shade inside her to take over her body, and we do battle with her, or it, or whatever it is that's manifested inside of her. She's fast as fuck, leaping on 4 legs from wall to wall, spraying the room with bullet hell bubbles. When the boss health bar hits 75%, Kaine goes back to normal, and a mandala appears over the altar where Yona once laid. We find a mysterious stone fragment inlaid with runes and with a little moss growing on it. Is it any surprise that we take this to Popola for her opinion? She says it's a piece of the key that unlocks the Shadow Lord's castle. Then she hands me a diagram of the complete key drawn on a scroll. There are 5 pieces, and each have their own name. The Stone Guardian is the one I just picked up. There's also the Law of Robotics, Sacrifice, the Memory Tree, and Loyal Cerberus. Strange names for key fragments, to be sure. We're pretty sure that the Memory Tree refers to the tree in the Forest of Myth, and the Law of Robotics may have something to do with the Junk Heap. So, I go to the Junk Heap first. Upon arrival, we watch a sepia-toned flashback of the 2 weaponsmith brothers, Gideon and Jacob with a K, exploring the ruined factory when debris falls and kills Gideon. An anthropomorphic and rusty robot watches the younger brother howl at a distance. All grown up now, Jacob asks us to explore the deepest annals of the Junk Heap to find him some memory alloys so he can upgrade a weapon that I don't give a shit about. To my absolute astonishment, I happen to have all the ingredients for upgrading my Phoenix Spear to level 2 on me while I'm here. So I do. My baseline attack power leads from 490 to 576, and magic power from 50% to 60%. leaving all other weapons so far behind in power level, it is absurd to use any other weapon for the purpose of battle. In Basement 2 of the Junk Heap, we endure another minecart gauntlet. But the dark scythes form a protective barrier around myself, while sentry guns and UFO-shaped robots fill the screen with red bullet hell bubbles. We also find some of those anthropomorphic robots. They don't pose much trouble, although the electricity fields they spread on the floor means we have to use ranged spells or leaping strikes. When they explode, they leave behind a memory alloy. Unfortunately, we don't find any Shadowlord key fragments down here, so I return to Jacob. Maybe we'll have better luck at the Forest of Myth. At the Forest of Myth, the mayor tells us that there is a strange presence within the village's divine tree, and asks us to slip into its text adventure to investigate. When we reach the tree, either the tree or the strange presence inside says it is the grass, trees, and woods, and that the dark entity governs all memories. I'm not going to get into every detail, but the text adventure tells two stories. The first is a memory of enviousness, describing the emotional state of a boy in a hospital. The second is about loss pertaining to a female warrior who battles enormous beasts and recalls memories of her daughter. The tree wants to tell a third story about a red dragon that fell from the heavens, but forgot the details. The tree, it seems, is losing access to its hoard of jewels, with jewels being an analog for memories. Then, in the script of the text adventure, a shade appears, stealing, mistreating, and even eating jewels. Nier slays the shade in the tree's dream, and jewels and the Shadowlord key spills from its open stomach. The tree reabsorbs the jewels and then gives me a reading comprehension quiz about the stories it's told. Once it's over, we leave the text adventure. The tree thanks us for destroying the dream shade, and the Shadowlord key manifests in the real world. We take it and leave the forest. A letter from Jacob invites me to return to the Junk Heap, where he tasks me with finding and destroying the robot that he suspects killed his brother. He says he thinks it's been possessed by a shade, which by now we realize is a dog whistle for Nier to unleash his carnage. Back at the platform we fought the robot face and hands 5 years ago, we see another walking anthropomorphic robot occupying the same space. His blue paint looks like it's been rubbing off over centuries, and a stencil of the serial number P-33 is sprayed onto its chest. It has glowing yellow eyes, machine guns for hands, and sitting on top of its head is a small shade. There is a semi-permanent field of electricity around its feet, and when this guy stomps the floor, arcs of electricity spread in all directions, so the best way to deal damage to this guy is hitting its head, or the shade on its head, I should say, with leaping spear thrusts. Partway through the battle, it magnetically draws junk to its shoulders, creating makeshift wings that allow it to dive bomb me or ram the ceiling, shaking loose huge chunks of debris on top of me. Finishing it isn't hard at all, and when its health bar expires, it collapses, dislodging the shade from its perch. We break the attack gauge on the shade, and the glory kill shot shows Nier issuing a dark phantasm which gives the P-33 a mighty downward slash from 50 feet up. When the fight is over, Jacob kicks and punches the broken robot, because I guess he's here with me now. I didn't realize that earlier. He's celebrating that he's free to scrap the Junk Heap without fear, and cackles like a madman. Strange. But we receive the Law of Robotics key and return to Popola. Popola next sends us to the Eyrie, following word from the Elder that a commercial district has opened up, and also tells us that the villagers know the meaning of the word sacrifice. Recall that the word sacrifice is in one of the names of the key fragments, so it's piqued our interest. So Nier and the gang go to the Eyrie to speak to the Elder, who's still hiding in his metal house. He says he didn't write the letter and to go away. At the commercial district, we discover some of the people there are shades in disguise, and Nier sets out to purge the village of shades. Chaos erupts, and we're responsible for it. Kaine slays a villager who by appearances alone is not herself a shade, and her son, witnessing the horror of his mom struck down, calls us the monsters here. The fallen mother transforms into a shade, races at Kaine, and cuts her across the belly with its runic sword. Kaine collapses. Emil and I are overwhelmed by shades on these narrow walkways and witness a large gathering miasma of black energy hovering beside the new commercial district. After slaying a heavily armored elite shade in front of it, the dark cloud manifests into a colossal teardrop of smoking and rapidly spinning runic patterns. The teardrop unpeels itself, blossoming like a horrific lotus flower, revealing a core inside, a sphere encrusted with smoking rock taking the shape of an enormous eyeball. A large chunk missing from the carapace reveals a white mandala against a red gelatinous inner core. The mandala is, essentially, its iris and pupil. Like number 6, this boss also feels very Neon Genesis Evangelion, because the angel Lelial also had a form that was a massive globe of white and black textures. Emil realizes that the thing sucked up all the villagers, and defeating the boss will probably mean killing them all. So we engage it in a fight. In this battle, the lotus leaves are constantly in motion around the eyeball, serving as a protective covering for the boss's weak spot. The boss sprays bullet hell bubbles and mesmerizing patterns, spawns shades, and occasionally drives a lotus leaf into the floor of the platform I'm fighting on. Ranged abilities seem most ideal, and when the boss's health reduces to half, I easily break the attack gauge on its pupil with dark lances. In the glory kill, dark hands pull the lotus leaves apart, but it's useless. Emil draws its attention while Nier runs halfway around the Eyrie to focus another weak spot on its back, which causes it to pull back to another platform. The final phase has us dodging a thick death laser from its pupil, but my lances are so strong this phase doesn't last very long at all. We break another attack gauge on its pupil, and Nier condenses a fully charged rack of dark lances into one, which bores into the eye's protective covering. At the same time, Emil goes berserk and fires a similarly devastating beam of purple energy at the thing at the same time. Then the screen wipes and we get a new 21st century journal entry. Serious, deleterious abnormalities have been found with a subject in the early stages of treatment, including a relapse state resulting in total loss of self. We will investigate the cause of this error and submit a countermeasure plan immediately. Then we're back in the action. Emil continues to go berserk and releases a glowing field of chaotic purple energy which consumes the boss. Kaine rouses awake in time to flee the growing sphere's range of destruction. The field expands and expands and expands, ultimately destroying the Eyrie completely. There is no question. The isolationist denizens were absolutely right to ask us to go away. In our determination to eliminate all shades, we have killed everybody who lives here. Not a trace of the Eyrie remains. Kaine survives, and Emil is regretful that he destroyed the village and killed innocent people. But we pat him on the back, saying he did it to save us. Nier is straight up Machiavellian, saying, "Don't look back, you did the right thing." Kaine and Weiss say nothing. We earn the sacrifice key fragment and depart the demolished cliffside village. Continued in Part 3,